Welcome back to the Tikit demo series. This section of the demo series is going to be focusing in on Tikit's ability to wrap around multiple teams or multiple departments inside of your business. Now, Tikit has the ability to turn any department inside of your organization into its own individual service desk. So that could be IT, that could be facilities, that could be HR, that could be finance. And the idea here is that end users can submit requests to those respective departments, and each of those departments can have their own partitioned individual service desks to be able to receive those requests, work on them, and bring them all the way through to resolution. There's typically two sides to this conversation. There is the end user experience, which is what we're going to be focusing in on today in this particular video. And then there's the agent experience, which there'll be a complementary video talking through the agent experience of multi-departments. Now, with respect to the end users, they don't particularly care, if you will, how Tikit is set up from the agent side. They're going to have different needs that need to be requested or fulfilled that could spread across different departments. And as I mentioned earlier, such as IT, our facilities, our HR, our finance, or legal. And in all of the end user experiences for Tikit, we give the end user the ability to submit tickets to those respective departments. We'll walk through the three different channels that end users can do that with our product. So that will be Microsoft Teams, that will be in our web experiences, and in our email experiences. And we'll do that in today's session. So on the screen here, just for some context, you have two personas. You have Adele, who she's my end user, and she'll be asking for stuff from the business, submitting things to these different departments. And then we have Diego here, who's an agent, who'll be receiving those requests from the business and into those different departments. Now, when Adele wants to work in teams, she has a couple of options when submitting tickets to different departments. She's effectively going to be working out of what's called Tikit Virtual Agent. This is her self-service experience inside of Microsoft Teams. And she has two paths that she can take to be able to submit requests to these different departments. The first is, at any point, she can type the word help. And this will bring back a help menu. And that help menu will provide her a visual set of options that allow for her to interact with the different departments. Now, some might call this a help menu, some might call this a service catalog. I've chosen to call it a service catalog, and I've provided visually different sections across this help menu that are categorized by different departments. So you'll see here I have an IT section, a facility section, an HR section, a finance section, and so on. And Adele can interact with different options within each one of these sections. So if Adele were to want to create an IT ticket, she can go over here and say IT ticket, and that will allow her to submit a ticket to IT. If she were to, as a comparative example, want to submit something to HR, she can click on a new HR ticket, and that will send a ticket over to HR. Now these look similar, but there's actually an important nuance difference here. This one's being sent to IT. This one's being sent to HR. You're also seeing in this dropdown other teams and departments, because Adele at any point can send a ticket to any one of the teams and departments that are set up within Tikit. Now, maybe she wants to actually, instead of submitting a regular ticket, be able to initiate a business process. Well, in the help menu, we can also present forms that allow for the end user to fill out anything and then send to a respective department. So as an example, if I wanted to submit a software request, this would present to me a software request form, which is a service request. I could fill this out, and that will send over to IT. Or maybe I need to do an office move, and that's a facilities request. Same experience, fill out a form, send this over to IT. Last example here might be in kicking off a new hire process. Different type of form that will send over to HR. Now you'll also see here in the help experience, I can also put different knowledge articles into my different areas here. So maybe I'm constantly asked Wi-Fi information. I can put a knowledge article here that's related to IT. or maybe there's constant HRS password issues. I can present a knowledge article in the context of the HR team. Again, the idea here is that the help menu can allow for you to visually construct the options for your employees and how to interact with potentially the different departments you have set up inside of the service desk. Now, this is path one, the ability to interact with the help menu. Path two is having a conversation with Tikit Virtual Agent. There's the same net result, but it's conversation driven through our AI engine. So I'll kind of give some examples here on how that would work. So if I were to say new ticket as an example, this would allow for Adele to submit a new ticket. As mentioned earlier, what you'll see here is the option to submit to a different team. So if I wanted to send this over to HR, I could. And when I submit this over, and we'll start submitting tickets now, you'll start to see these tickets send over to the respective teams over on Diego's side. So this one will be sent over to the HR team. Let's say that I wanted to submit a software request, I need Adobe Photoshop. We know that a request for Photoshop is a software request, which is a service request. So we'll go ahead and present the appropriate form for that. Now, when I submit this, this will be sent over to IT, but specifically this one will be assigned to the desktop group, because at least in my business, all software requests are managed by the desktop group. If I were to say I need to move my office, I didn't mean to misspell that with a little period there, but it's a good example that this is driven by our AI engine, so we're interpreting the intention of the request and providing the appropriate response here. So I need to move my office. We'll bring back the move add change form for facilities. So I'll pull one. Now, this right here is an approval for the software request. So that's why you're seeing that there, but this will submit that ticket and send over to facilities. The other thing I want to highlight here is that as we are letting the employee fill out forms and submit tickets, they're always going to be doing it from a single experience. And the idea here is that they're provided this single experience, a single pane of glass, the self-service experience of Tikit Virtual Agent to not only submit tickets to the respective teams, but receive updates from those teams as things are being updated across their particular request there. And it really provides a nice central point for the employee, but lets us send tickets to those respective teams to work on them across their individual service desks. Last example I want to highlight here before we go into one of the other experiences, web and email, is interacting with knowledge articles. The reason I want to highlight that is there is a multi-team functionality there as well. So if I were to say I need the Wi-Fi password as an example, just kind of piggybacking on some of the help examples I gave. We know that the end user is asking for the Wi-Fi information, so we're gonna present that. But let's just say for some reason this wasn't the right solution. We're going to give them an out. We're going to ask them, was this answer helpful, yes or no? If they say no, we'll let them continue to travel and create the ticket. We're also going to present them with that multi-team functionality. So maybe they're receiving a knowledge article that's HR related, but it shouldn't be sent to HR. It should be, it's not the right article. They can send it to HR, finance, or whatever it may be here. And this team selection, if you're in a multi-team, multi-department experience, is going to exist in all of the end user experiences as they're submitting tickets, if you decide to turn it on. Now, we also have these other experiences or channels where an end user can submit tickets. So I want to kind of go over those as well. There is the request portal, or what we call the end user portal. This is a web experience that Adele can also review all of her open tickets, but also submit tickets. And if she were to add a request here, this is going to be very similar to the conversational experience in Tikit Virtual Agent. So if I were to say, I need the Wi-Fi password, That will bring back that knowledge article. But what's interesting here is if I say no, create a ticket, this will also present me with the different teams to submit this ticket to. So if this should go to HR or finance, I get that same experience. Now, in an alternative example, if I were to say, I need Adobe Photoshop, what you're going to see here is we know that this is a software request and we need this form filled out for that software request. So we're going to let the end users submit that. And when they submit it, it's going to go over to IT and the desktop team because that's how this is controlled in terms of the backend workflow and where this is being sent to across the different teams here. So very similar experience, just presented in kind of this web experience when submitting tickets via conversation here. Now, last experience the end user has is via email. So let's go over to email here. And a couple of things I want to highlight here. The first thing is you're seeing right away that all the tickets that we've been creating, we're sending Adele email updates to those tickets. You don't have to do that, but if you want to, you can. And specifically what I want to highlight is that they're coming from the department that they were submitted to. So the printer issue is IT, the HR issue is HR, the facilities issue is facilities, or the move out change, excuse me. And how we do that is that every team that you have ticket deployed to and set up as a service desk can have its own mailbox. And all the communication will come from that team when assigned to that team and updating the end user via email. That also travels to submission. So if I wanted to submit a ticket to IT, that will send a ticket over to IT. But if I want to send one to facilities, or if I want to send one to HR, each one of those teams can have its own mailbox, and only the HR team will see these tickets in this particular example as they're being submitted to the service desk. The idea here again is that we're keeping the communication directly assigned to that respective team, or between that team and that end user. So in summary, the end user has three experiences, three channels where they can submit tickets: Teams, web, and email. And depending on where they're at, they're provided different ways to submit tickets to these different teams and allow for communication to happen between those respective channels. Well, this is where we're going to end today's demo. Really hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please email team@tikit.ai.